Hey everyone, welcome back to the Mystic CEO. My name is Victoria Greer Hathaway and I am your host. Today we're going to be talking about how to look at your business through your birth chart. This is something I fucking love doing because when you look at your business in terms of your birth chart, you can get strategy that is catered specifically for you. So there are so many people out there, so many bro marketers, so many coaches out there telling you this is the strategy, this is the one you have to use in order to blow up. And I'm here to tell you bullshit. Absolutely, there is no one size fits all strategy. I have seen every single strategy work for different people. And when I've seen people try to force their little tight buttholes into strategies that don't work for them, I see them falling on their face over and over again. I've had coaches that have said, this is exactly how you need to scale. This is exactly how you need to grow. And if it's not in alignment with your chart, I'm here to tell you it's not going to work. And that's why you keep hitting your head up against the wall when you're trying to scale, when you're trying to hire, when you're trying to add this other thing onto your business. If it's not in alignment with your birth chart, it's going to be really difficult for your energy. And because the universe, what it ultimately wants to do more than anything is to bring you in alignment with your authentic self. So when you are doing things that are against your natural energy, that are against your natural birth chart, it's not a punishment, but it's literally a reflection telling you, reverberating back to you saying, hey, this isn't the way to do this. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to go through your birth chart from a lens you've probably never looked at it before, and that is through the lens of your business. But let's first talk about what is a birth chart. Your birth chart is the moment you were born. It's like a snapshot in the sky. So the energy that was in the sky, the day, the night, the second you were born, lives inside your body. Those planetary alignments, those aspects, those energies, they're influencing how you function now. And when the planets move, when there's different transit, it affects us different ways based on our birth charts. And we can look at astrology in so many different ways. In fact, a lot of people, when they get into astrology, they start out as psychologists because they're wanting to understand the human psyche at a deeper level. In fact, Carl Jung was fascinated with this concept because we're able to look at how our different patterns play out, how maybe our different family of origins play out, and how we react to these things. But we can also look at it in terms of business. Now, there's a few ways to do this. Number one, you can look at your personal birth chart. And if you are a solopreneur, you're a business owner, you started this business, then your birth chart is going to give you a lot of really clear indications of how your business might be functioning best and how you're going to function in your business. Now, there's also another birth chart, and that is your business the moment it was born. Now, how you're going to determine when your business is born is going to be different for different people. It might be your first sale that you ever made. It might be when you started your website. It might be when you established your LLC or applied for your business license. And also these charts can change. So publicly traded companies, for instance, when they get on the New York Stock Exchange, that is when they become a different chart and their chart is actually established. So you can actually look at different publicly traded companies and watch what happens in the stock market, and it reflects in their birth chart. So first thing we're going to look at when we look at your birth chart, I always like to look at your rising sign. This is also called the ascendant, which you might see abbreviated as like ASC. This is a really important part of your chart because it's the most personal to you. Because your sun changes every 30 days, the moon changes every 2.5 days, and all the other planets have their own amount of time that they're changed, but the rising sign changes about every hour to 2 hours. So it's changing rapidly. And even the degree point, it's changing every few minutes. So if you get really deep, you can look at each different degree is ruled by a different planet, and which degree it is says something. We're not going to get that complex today, but you can get really nitty gritty with it. So your ascendant tells you so much about who you are. It represents your physical body. And it represents in your business your personality and how you come off to people. So, this isn't your sun sign. So your sun sign is, you were born in the season of Taurus. Okay, cool, you're a Taurus, or you're an Aries or whatever. So it's going to be the same for your ascendant. It's going to be one of those 12 signs, but it's very specific to your time. That's why you always hear astrologers, you have to have your exact birth time. And even if you think you have it, your mom's like, I think you were born at about 8:30. You're gonna want to get the official birth certificate to see your time, because even a minute can change your entire chart. And in your business, this is the face of your business. This is how people experience you. Now, this isn't necessarily your branding, and sometimes people can get confused with that. I don't necessarily suggest to brand your business according to your rising sign. However, it is really great for you to embody that energy, because it's going to make people feel naturally really comfortable with you. Now, the next thing that you want to look at that's super fucking important is the ruler of that ascendant. So what I mean by that is every single one of the 12 signs, they have a ruling planet. So for me, for instance, I'm a Leo rising, which is ruled by the sun. So the sun is the most important planet in my birth chart. If you're a Gemini rising or you're a Virgo rising, Mercury is going to be the most important planet. If you're a Pisces rising or a Sag rising, Jupiter is going to be the most important planet. Now, you may have heard that Pisces is ruled by Neptune, and that is in modern astrology. And when it comes to chart rulers, I really like to look at the traditional planets because they're faster moving and they're going to give you a little bit more variety. So for instance, Pisces, Aquarius, and Scorpio, they have a modern and a traditional ruler because those planets were discovered later once the telescope was discovered. For a long time, the furthest we could see of the planets was Saturn, and that was kind of the wall. That's where it stopped. But then when the telescope was invented, we also discovered Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, because we could see further out. So then we assigned Scorpio to Pluto, and we assigned Aquarius to Uranus and Neptune to Pisces. And while I understand that, and I'm not saying don't use them, they don't matter at all. They totally matter, and they give you almost like a higher octave of that energy. But the reason why I really like to focus on the traditional planets is because they're faster moving. So that means, Scorpio's traditional ruler is Mars. And so if we're looking at Pluto instead, that means that every single Scorpio rising for like a 19-year, sometimes 20-year period, Pluto's a super slow moving planet. It's all going to be the same ruling sign. And Mars moves a lot faster, moves about approximately like every month and a half, 2 months. So you're going to be able to see more variety in each of the signs based on if you're using the traditional ruler. So that's the second thing I like to look at. I like to look at the chart ruler because that's your like power point in the chart. It's one of the most important, explosive, energetic points in the chart. And a lot of people overlook this. So what you're going to do to find your chart ruler is you're going to look at what your ascendant is, and then you're going to look at what is the planetary ruler of that sign. And if you see Neptune for Pisces, you're going to know it's Jupiter. And so you're going to look at the traditional planetary ruler of that sign. And that's going to let you know where your chart ruler is. And then you're going to look at what sign your chart ruler is in, and then what house. So for instance, I am a Leo rising. My sun is in Capricorn, and in Placidus, it's in the 5th house. And that's another thing when you hear about there's different house systems that divide up the signs. I personally suggest if you're new to astrology, start with whole sign houses. It's a lot easier to understand. It's a lot simpler, and it'll help you understand the map of the chart before you learn all the pieces. And then you can explore the different house systems. I use both whole sign and Placidus. I think they're both really valuable in my work with my clients. For a long time, I only used whole sign, but I really do think Placidus is super important calculation or super important house calculation. So I like to use that with my clients. However, I always like to use whole sign first. And there's a lot of debate as to why. You might use different ones. For me, I feel like the whole sign is, I don't want to say simple explanation, but more of like an overview explanation of the chart. And it just kind of helps you, I think, have a clearer picture of everything. I think it's a little bit more like your soul tone, whereas Placidus, I think, gives you a lot more details. And I really like Placidus, but if you look at your chart in both calculations, you'll see it's a lot more complicated in Placidus. The house, like how big the houses are, will change based on Placidus versus whole sign. What that means is the whole sign is in each house. So for me, going back to the chart ruler, my sun is in the 5th house in Placidus, and in whole sign, it's in the 6th house, and it's in Capricorn. So that is the most important planet in my chart, which means as far as business goes, that's a planet I really need to focus on when it comes to my own vital energy and self-expression. Okay, so next we're going to go to the sun. So that's your rising sign. We talked about your chart ruler. Really important to understand that. That's also, when you understand your chart ruler, you're going to really be able to understand like how your energy is most effective as well. So this might even show you like the area, like where you want to focus your business. So if you're new to business, for instance, which I don't think many of you are listening to this, most of my clients have been in business for a while, people listening to me, but if you happen to be catching this and you're new to business or you're starting your business, your chart ruler is a really good place to start. Even if you're pivoting in your business, if you're like, I feel really out of alignment, I want to be doing something that's closer to who I am, look at your chart ruler, because your chart ruler is going to tell you where your energy naturally wants to focus. And so for me, for instance, my sun, like I said, it goes back and forth between that 5th and 6th house. And I really noticed that for myself. So 6th house, it's all about service, healing, helping other people, making people's daily lives better. 5th house, entertainment, play, creativity, theater. Those are so both me. I have my degree in vocal performance. I minored in theater. I did dance. I was always on stage. And I really like that. I like being on stage. It lights me up. Yes, I'm a Leo rising as well. So there's themes that carry on that, yes, I enjoy being in front of people. I enjoy having the spotlight on me, but it was never fully fulfilling until I'm helping people. So the way that I feel the most fulfilled is when all eyes are on me, but I'm also helping people achieve their full potential. And that's that combination of the Capricorn. And until I realized I was a Capricorn, I actually was really confused about why I didn't want to be, more in the center of attention just for the sake of the center of attention. As a Sagittarius, it's fire, it's wild, it's carefree, it's charismatic. And while I totally identify with that, I have my Mars in Sagittarius, I see that energy playing out. I see the Capricorn there too, the one that wants to build a legacy, the one that wants to help improve people's lives. And so by me looking at both of those placements, I'm able to see the nuance of what it is that my soul really came here to do. And it gave me a great starting point. So I know that, even somebody might tell me, oh my God, you're so good at, writing, or you're so good at this over here. Like I worked with kids for a long time. I taught in school. That's not really in my chart. I'm good with kids, that's 5th house, but I'm not a school teacher. And I did not love that environment at all. I don't like that structure. I don't like that routine. What I enjoy doing is more 6th house work, helping people improve their lives, helping people heal their lives. And I enjoy doing it on a microphone, in front of people, on a stage. That's really, really fulfilling to me. So next thing that you're going to look at is you're going to look at your sun sign. So this is a really, really important part of your chart when it comes to business, because this is your visibility. So your sun sign is going to tell you a lot about your comfortability with visibility. So this is where I think it's really funny when people are like, this is the strategy you always need to use. It always works, because I'm like, it's not true. Depending on where your sun sign is in your chart, it's going to really depend on what kind of strategy that you need to be using. So for instance, if you have your sun in the 12th house, you are going to be really comfortable being behind the scenes. You might not want your face on the camera at all. You might be in one of those like faceless Instagram accounts because the 12th house is private. It's hidden. It's our subconscious. It's also very woo-woo and spiritual. It's the house of therapy. It's the house of self-undoing. It also rules things like incarceration and retreats. So it's hidden. It's things that are away, hidden away. And so, for instance, if you have your sun in your 12th house and you have a coach that's telling you, oh, you need to be showing your face and you need to be showing up on social media, that's going to really drain you and actually probably not attract your ideal client at all. And your natural discomfort with visibility, it's not bad. And while you can work through that, you can heal, especially if you have visibility wounds, like you can definitely like get your nervous system feeling safer being seen. But there's actually a lot of power in being comfortable behind the scenes. I knew somebody, she had her son in her 12th house and she really didn't show herself at all on social media. She did a lot of posts. She would do some B-roll, but like truly she barely showed her face. But she built such a successful business by being behind the scenes, by doing things in this very 12th house way. So when you look at your sun, you're going to want to look at what house it's in. So there's 12 different houses and what sign it's in. And that's going to give you the first layer of how you might want to position your level of visibility in your business. Now, it also can show you wounds that you might have around visibility. So for instance, if you have your sun maybe connected to your Chiron, you might have a wound around visibility. Chiron is the wounded healer. It's the thing that we're here to heal in ourselves and also to heal in others. But that's just something to keep in mind, that sometimes your sun might be in a position where it doesn't feel comfortable with visibility. And that's okay. And you can still build a successful business while working on those things, while tending to those wounds, and still be really, really successful. But sun signs, so let's talk about maybe some of the signs that they might be in. So for instance, if you have your sun in Pisces or Cancer, you're going to market so differently than somebody's sun sign who's in Aries or Sagittarius or Leo, because Cancer and Pisces are water signs. So this is going to give you a really clear picture of, okay, where might I be comfortable with visibility? How do I want to show up? How do I see myself? How do I want to project myself to the world? That's your sun. So, with Pisces, for instance, you might be coming off very ethereal, very mystical. There might be some mystery behind you. You might not be all out in front, talking, taking the mic. It might be a little bit more artistic. Maybe there's a lot more subtlety to what you're doing. Versus if your sun is in Aries, you might be coming on the mic and, saying, fuck this, fuck that, and getting really in people's face and people pay attention. You might have really active content. It might be really raw, edgy, not a lot of editing. It's just out there right in front. Now, I want to say this. There's a lot of nuance when it comes to your chart. So just when you take this one thing out, like I'm like, okay, yeah, you're an Aries sun, and this totally doesn't resonate with you at all, there's probably some other things going on in your chart. So you really want to get a business astrology reading. You can always book those. It's in the link in my show notes. And to get the full picture of what's going on, because there's a lot of other things that are going to contribute to that. So things like where your sun's ruling sign is. So for instance, if you're in Aries, but your Mars is in Pisces, that's going to be super different than if you're in Aries and your Mars is in Sagittarius, or your Mars is, in Taurus or Gemini. It's going to play out differently. So when you're looking at your sun, yes, you want to look at what house it's in. That's going to tell you a lot about how you're going to be showing up. So we talked about the 12th house. Now, if your sun is in your first house, this means your business needs your face. It means that your business wants you to be showing up. It wants you to be visible. That's also true if your sun is in your 10th house or 11th house or even 5th house. These are places where your sun really wants you to be visible. And the more visible you are, the better that your business is going to do and the more you're going to thrive. Now let's go to your moon. So your moon is really important in business. It's not going to be the thing that people see, but it's going to be how you feel in your business. So this is unbelievably important because a lot of people build their businesses against their moon signs and they end up really hating their business, or they end up burning out, or they end up overwhelmed. And that might be because programming, or they had this coach that told them this one thing, but also it can be because you're catering to your sun sign, or you're catering to your ascendant, and you're not taking into consideration your moon. So your moon is actually going to be setting up the overall feeling of how you feel in your business. If you have a Virgo moon, you're going to want a lot more planning, a lot more strategy, a lot more to-do list, versus somebody that maybe has their moon in Sagittarius, who needs a lot more freedom in their everyday, who doesn't want a to-do list, that doesn't want things to be the same. A Virgo moon might do really well with like a business that's consistent week after week after week, where they're doing the same things over and over and over. Whereas a Sagittarius moon, that might drive you out of your freaking mind. Now remember, there's always nuance. We always want to look at what house it's in. The ruler of the moon, if it has any aspects, like for instance, a moon with a Mars on top of it is going to be very different than a moon with a Saturn on top of it. So there's lots of layers to this. But looking at your moon sign and what sign it's in is going to be so, so important. So for instance, my moon is in Libra and it's in my third house. So for me, my moon is really set up to talk and communicate, and it's set up to talk to somebody and to have a back and forth. So even when I'm like recording this, I'm thinking about I'm having a conversation with you. And, I do really well when I have other people on the podcast and interviewing people because I'm having this back and forth. But I also have it in the third house. So podcasting is really, really good for me. And speaking is really good for me. It's trined my Venus in Aquarius. So I need to be talking about subjects that are out there. I need to have a lot of freedom. If I try to structure things too much, I can really overwhelm myself. And I do that. That's a lot of times where I stop in my business, because my Capricorn energy wants to come in and wants to hyper manage my Libra moon and wants to make everything really detailed and scheduled and structured. And my Libra moon's like, I need to vibe, especially trining that Venus in Aquarius. It's also, Libra is ruled by Venus. So my Aquarian energy is like, I need freedom and I need to be able to talk about the shit that's important to me when I want to talk about it. And I can't be confined to a schedule. Like, it literally drives me fucking insane. This is where a lot of us will get this back and forth because we have parts of our charts. Like, I have 5 planets in Capricorn. There's a large part of me that wants to be unbelievably scheduled in my business. But every time I sit down and do it, I feel like I'm suffocating. I delay. I don't do shit like I'm supposed to do it because I don't like that structure. And that's a lot about my moon. It's also a lot about my Venus and my Mars, which we're about to get into. But it's really important to make sure that your moon sign feels comfortable with your business. So for instance, Libra does not like confrontation. So if I had my business set up, and I've had this where I've had really confrontational clients who feel really intense to my nervous system, and it was just overwhelming. It's not that I think they're bad. It's not that I think anything's wrong with them, but having clients that are always in my face, that are really argumentative, it's really, really hard on my nervous system, and it's overwhelming to me. And my moon sign is like, I do not like that. I like to work in harmony with my clients. I like to partner with my clients. I don't like hierarchy in my business. I like things to feel harmonious and good and balanced. And when, I have people that are really argumentative and that's I hated doing astrology for skeptics, because I'm like, I don't really want to convince you of shit. I'm not really here to do that. You can go do your own research. You do not need to work with me. I'm not here to convince you of shit. And some people like that. Some people like that challenge. And if you're like that, if you have an Aries moon or you have a Sagittarius moon, you might really enjoy some of that. Kind of trying to win people over to a different way of thinking. That is not how I vibe. So for me, I've had to really learn to set my business up in a way that honors that Libra moon. Next, let's go to our Mercury. This is super fucking important in your business because Mercury is how you communicate, it's how you market yourself, and it's your writing style, your speaking style, and it's really kind of the way that you mentally organize things. So if your Mercury is in, let's say, a water sign, you're going to approach your business very differently than if your Mercury is in an earth sign. And this is where I see a lot of people screwing themselves over because your Mercury may be in a wildly different place than your sun, and it might feel very different. So, for instance, you might have a Libra sun and a Mercury in Scorpio. So, you come off to people, very Libra, very Venusian, wanting to get along, harmony, balance. But then when you speak, there's an intensity to it. You want depth in your speaking. You're not interested in just staying on the surface. And this is really important to know because when you're not speaking with your Mercury sign or you're trying to make your Mercury sign do something it doesn't like doing, that can be really difficult. And that for a lot of people is where they struggle because, again, we're told in business, this is how you have to be marketing yourself. You have to have a podcast to be successful, or you have to do reels, or you have to have a email newsletter or whatever. And if you have a Mercury, like let's say a Mercury in Sagittarius or Mercury in Pisces, like those are not traditionally the strongest Mercuries. Now, if you have those Mercuries, that doesn't mean it's bad. It doesn't mean that you can't do business or you can't market, but it does mean that you're not going to market like a Virgo. You're not going to market like a Gemini where everything's really structured and planned. Like you might need to go by the seat of your pants a little bit more or speak based on the emotions you're feeling. If you're a Mercury in Sag, you might have a tendency to say things that you don't mean and like later be like, that was a little harsh, or, I said that and I didn't really totally understand what I was talking about when I said that. And that can be a tendency with Mercury in Sagittarius or Mercury in Pisces. And so if you try to tell a Mercury in Sagittarius, for instance, like you need to plan this out, like really sometimes Mercury in Sagittarius, they just need to talk. And some of it might be shit and they might cut a lot of it. And then some of it might be amazing and gold that they're like about to like go plan like a rebrand on. So depending on where your Mercury is, this is going to tell you a lot about the way that you need to be communicating. So my Mercury is in Capricorn along with fucking everything else. And this means that when I speak, I'm really decisive. I want to clearly know what I'm talking about. I don't like riffing on things. I can definitely just talk. Again, I have my Libra moon, so there's that. But I like to know what I'm talking about. I'm not really somebody that just likes to get on the podcast and be like, okay, we're just going to talk about whatever I feel like talking about. Like I like to come with an agenda. I like to come with a plan. But I also have to remember that I have other planets that also want other things. So I give my Mercury that little bit of structure, but I don't suffocate it. Sometimes my Mercury wants me to be really, really over scheduled, over thought out, over planned, and it squares my Libra moon. So there's a tension there. So what I've had to find when you have hard aspects like that, and an aspect just means like the relationship between two planets, and a square is a 90 degrees. When you have these hard aspects like that, you have to learn how to work with those planets in a way that is beneficial because they're pushing up against each other. So my mind and my emotions sometimes are the enemies of each other. My emotions can go all over the place. I talk a lot when I'm trying to figure something out emotionally. And my Mercury Capricorn wants me to have a definitive stance on it, or a definitive answer, or a definitive way of viewing something. And sometimes I need to let myself be in process. I need to let myself look at both sides, go. And so sometimes I find myself kind of backing myself into a corner of like, oh, I want to create this course because this seems really cool and let's plan out this whole course. And then my Libra moon's like, I'm really not feeling that. Like, that's not, like, that was an idea, but I'm not really ready to like pivot my whole business and like start this whole other course. And so I have to really watch that. And this is some of the things that can happen, in your marketing when you're not working with your Mercury, you don't understand your Mercury aspects, is your Mercury also changes a lot, and it's a really fast moving planet. And so if you're trying to make your Mercury something it's not, it can be really damaging to your business. It can be a lot of starts and stops. So if you're finding yourself having a hard time figuring out how to market yourself, And the other thing is figuring out what your Mercury wants to say. So if you're, for instance, a Mercury in Scorpio and you're asking yourself to, just kind of talk about light stuff or the weather or not offend people. So this can be really hard because a lot of Libras will have their Mercury in Scorpio. So they don't want to offend anybody, but actually their Mercury wants to be really not divisive, but it wants to tell the truth. It wants to tell the deep truth that no one else can see that might be really uncomfortable. While the Libra sun or the Libra moon might want to be seeing both sides, considering other people's feelings, the Mercury in Scorpio is like, no, I see the truth under all the bullshit. And if you're not letting yourself communicate like your Mercury can get really fucking frustrated and it can just kind of stop working for you. So if you're finding yourself like struggling, let's say maybe you started a podcast or, you're on Instagram or on another social media platform and you're trying to get yourself to speak or do videos and you're just like, I fucking hate this. Look at your Mercury. Are you honoring it? Are you listening to it? Because if you're not, it's going to make it so much more difficult to get the flowing stream of consciousness. So like right now, I am in such flow with my Mercury placements. I have a little bit of structure for this episode. I know where we're going. I have some points, but I don't have a script in front of me. And let me tell you, my Mercury sometimes would rather have that because it wants to sound really fucking intelligent. But my Mercury is being squared by that Libra moon. It's also being squared by my midheaven in Aries, which means that I need to let myself kind of talk off the cuff sometimes, like have a loose plan, but not force myself into too much structure and let myself talk about the things that I get excited about. So that's your Mercury. Next, let's talk about your Venus. Your Venus is really, 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 really important in your business because it's money. It's your values, it's your aesthetics, and it's your clients and how you attract them. So it's literally your magnetism. So if you're having a hard time making money in your business or money in general, you're wanting to scale or you're finding yourself, I have this a lot where people come to me and they're like, I have clients, I'm attracting clients, but I'm not attracting clients that like I love. Like I'm not enjoying. Look at your Venus. This is going to tell you a lot about the types of clients and the values that are the most important to you in your business. So if you have, let's say, you have your Venus in, let's try to think of one we haven't done, Gemini. If you have your Venus in Gemini, you are going to want clients that, maybe there's a lot of variety there. You're not going to want the same type of client over and over again. You're probably going to get really bored working with the same client over and over again. So, while every coach in the world will tell you have to have an ideal client, that might not be totally true for a Venus and Gemini. Now, there might be like an overall theme, like you might be working, let's say Venus and Gemini, you might be somebody that's maybe you're a podcast coach or you do copywriting for people. Maybe you're a photographer. Those are all very Venus and Gemini. You might find yourself, for instance, doing wedding photography or, doing boudoir photography, but you might not find yourself wanting to have the same type of client over and over again. Maybe you want to have a variety of different clients. If you have your Venus in Capricorn, for instance, you might want to be meeting with people that are building something. It might be really frustrating for you, to work with people that are kind of trying to figure out what they're passionate about because you're ready to build. That's a huge part of your value system. You're here to build legacy. That's a big thing for Capricorn. So if you have a lot of Capricorn energy too, but if you have your Venus in Capricorn especially, and you're not attracting clients that are wanting to build and build legacy and build relationships and consistency, that can be really frustrating for you. So those are so different. So Venus and Gemini might not want to work with clients consistently at all. And everybody always says, oh, you have to do high ticket. You have to work with a client. You have to have consistency. Venus and Gemini might actually work better working with people in spurts and working with people for a short period of time and then pivoting and going to a different client. And might do well having many clients rather than just a few. Whereas somebody maybe with your Venus and Taurus, you want to have a client for a long time. And you might not want many clients. You might want one or two or three or four really big clients that you're consistently working with. But the idea of having people constantly revolving into the door could be super draining for you. For me, my Venus is an Aquarius. I need people that are radical, that are progressive, that are forward thinking, that are here to change the world. Like, I love working with world changers. I'm not interested in working with cookie cutter Karen to do whatever the hell she's doing. She can find her coach. I am not it. I want people who think outside the box and are here to revolutionize society. And it's in my seventh house. So you can look at your sign and you can look at the house it's in. So it's in my seventh house. So it's in my house of one-on-ones. I love working with people one-on-ones. I love a group. I really do fucking love a group. And I can see that in my chart because Aquarius is groups as well, but it's in my seventh house. So it's like, even when I'm working in a group, I still like to get that one-on-one connection with people because that's a huge value of mine, is the one-on-one. Like, what are you wanting to do? How are you wanting to change the world? So if you're struggling to find your ideal clients or the people that you really want to work with, look at your Venus. This is also going to tell you your value system, the things that really matter to you. So if you're feeling blech in your business, I'm always going to look at your Venus. I'm going to be like, okay, are you in alignment with your values? Are you doing the things that light you up, that you're really passionate about and not just excited about, but like are resonating with the values and morals of who you are as a human? Because if you're not, it's going to be really difficult for you to continue to attract money. And that's how you attract money, is by working with your Venus. So if all those things aren't in alignment, you're not connected to your values, you're not attracting your ideal client, you're not going to be making money. Or if you are making money, it's going to feel draining and it's not going to feel good and juicy. So that's your Venus. Next is your Mars. Your Mars is so fucking important in business. It's how you show up. It's your energy. It's your passion. It's your vitality. It's how you move forward and how you assert yourself and your will. So this is so sometimes your Mars, especially in where it is in your chart and like how it dances with other planets, it can be a really positive thing in your chart, and sometimes it can be a really challenging place in your chart. So if you've ever met somebody with just incredible work ethic, look at where their Mars is. Like, they're really good at getting started. They're really good at completing. Like, they're good at just showing up day after day. So somebody with a really strong Mars, like, might have their Mars in Capricorn. Mars loves to be in Capricorn. And when you have that placement, you have that natural drive. You have that natural work ethic that you show up, you do the thing. Now, if you have your Mars in a place, that's maybe a little bit more challenging, like Cancer or Taurus or Pisces or Libra, you might find yourself having a harder time getting started or asserting yourself. And especially if you have Cancer Mars, you might find yourself reacting emotionally. So maybe you can't really get started unless you're like emotionally charged by something or you react like that. So it's really important to start working with your Mars and also to have a ton of fucking grace with yourself if you do have one of those Marses that maybe are a little bit more slow. And I want to say it's not bad. You want to figure out how to work with your Mars and give yourself grace. Like, if you don't have a strong Mars, like let's say you have your Mars in Taurus, it might take you a while to get going, but there's benefits to every Mars placement. So, Taurus has kind of a hard time getting going, but it's consistent. It's, has staying power. It might not go fast, but it's slow and steady wins the race, and it gets there over time. Versus like me, I have my Mars in Sagittarius. I can flip an idea faster than you can imagine. I can build up a whole new business in 2.2 seconds. And I can pivot really fast, but I have a hard time with consistency. I have a hard time showing up once it stops being exciting. So I'm a really good coach. I'm really good at helping people like light that fire under their ass because, ooh, it's something new and shiny, and especially if it's something I'm passionate about. But I do struggle with that staying power. So that's where I have to let myself get excited, like find ways to excite myself. Because I also have my Mars in my fifth house. Like, how do I stay excited? How do I stay lit up? How do I stay passionate? So that's literally part of how I work with my Mars, is like, okay, I have to be constantly learning new things that are expansive, that feed into my work, even if I'm not shifting. So like right now, I'm really excited about financial astrology, learning how to apply astrology to the stock market. that is helping fuel even this right now, where I'm like, yeah, I can like say, like, I don't have any notes in front of me. I mean, I do. I have like really easy, but I don't have many notes. Like I can pretty much could do this entire conversation without notes. Like it's all in my head. It's not really challenging for me to talk about any of these things. And I need to stay inspired. So in order for me to come up and show up, I have to have that. And, fifth house. So also looking at what sign your Mars is in, but also what house it's in. Because for me, for instance, fifth house, getting inspired and excited and playing music and even like watching different movies or documentaries or listening to different podcasts with people that inspire me. Like I really feed off culture. So if I, have an album that really hits hard, like I go deep. I'll like deep dive on the artist. I look at their astrology chart. I'll watch documentaries on them. I'll learn everything I can because somehow that feeds and fuels my Mars to get me to show up and do the damn thing every day. So if you're finding yourself having a hard time getting started or having a hard time continuing and moving forward, look at your Mars and try working with that. This also can really show you how you show up as a leader in your business. So somebody that has maybe their Mars squaring their sun, you might be really motivated, but that might be coming from a wounded place because a square is it's a difficult aspect. Versus if you have your Mars on top of your sun, that motivation is going to be coming from within. And for me, my Mars and my sun, they're a sign apart. They're actually in the same house in Placidus, but they're a sign apart. So sometimes my son is like, I don't even fucking know how to motivate you. And I've had to really learn how to work with my Sagittarius Mars in a way, and my Capricorn sun doesn't get it. It's like I don't understand why watching the Kardashians or by watching the same documentary over and over lights you up, but what the fuck ever. Like I don't get why having a dance party makes you feel better, but it does. And so go do it. I don't understand why you need all of this culture and fun and excitement. Like, so that's the thing, like your different parts of your chart might not get each other, but that's okay. They're still vital parts of who you are. And in order to thrive and scale and grow in your business, you need to be attending to all of these parts. Okay. So Mars, so that's the end of the personal planets. Now we're on to Jupiter. This is a really important one. This is how you scale, how you teach, and how you expand. So if you're not working with your Jupiter, you're doing yourself a huge disservice. It's one of the most powerful places in your chart. And if you're a Sagittarius or you're a Pisces, this is an even more important place in your chart, because that is your ruling planet. So Jupiter is the planet of expansion. It's the planet of hope and luck. This is also how you teach. This is also how you expand and heal and connect to people at a wider radius. So where your Jupiter is in your chart is going to tell you a lot about how you expand. So for me, I have my Jupiter in my 12th house, which, it's it's not the best place to have your Jupiter. Your 12th house is, your house of self-sabotage. It's a hidden place. It's, a place where most people don't see. However, my Jupiter is in Cancer, which is Jupiter's favorite sign to be in, and it's exalted. And so for me to expand, and I literally just got this message the other day, and I just keep forgetting because it's so opposite to my Capricorn sun. But it's like, no, the way we expand is we create crazy lists and we, work, and we, create schedules that we have to follow. And my Jupiter in my 12th house is like, nah, bitch, the way we expand is by getting into the Akashic records and by connecting to our higher selves and by channeling and by manifesting from this 5D other realm place. And I don't love that all the time. When I'm in it, I love it. When I'm in it, I'm like, oh my God, this is the best. I love this so much. But when I'm thinking about it, that's not how I want to start my day, if I'm being honest. Like, how I want to start my day is by getting goals accomplished and by getting shit done. Like, almost the first thing I do every day is clean. Like, it's just my natural rhythm. And that's fine. But in order for me to expand, I have to tap into that 12th house energy, or else I find myself trying to expand in ways that don't really work. And I can tell you 1000% of the time, when I lean into that Jupiter placement, when I lean into that, mystical expansion, that's when my business scales. That's when it grows. And sometimes I'm really resistant to it and I don't even believe it sometimes. Not that I don't believe in the mystical realm, I definitely do, but my Capricorn energy doesn't want that to be true. It wants to accomplish. That feels better. And even though I know it works, I've seen it work in so many areas of my life, like literally how I manifested my wife and this life that we currently have so quickly was from this. Like it wasn't from making a list. It wasn't from hiring a dating coach and doing what somebody told me. It was literally through manifesting, going into the Akashic records, visualizing, and that's how I manifested exactly the life I have now. And like, even as I'm saying this, I'm like, okay, yeah, that's like a reminder to me of like, yeah, because I am at a point right now where I'm trying to scale and I'm trying to expand. And I'm even, this is the thing, like you can be an astrologer, you can know all this shit, and like, it's still something we have to go back to almost as meditation. So, people come to me and they come to me for like one session and they're like, okay, great. I have all the information. Great. Awesome. Peace. But the people that really thrive are the ones that look at this work and see it as a practice and see it as something that you have to come back to over and over and over again. Because it's not just about learning the information, it's the practice, it's the integration, it's the implementation, it's how you apply this to your life. And when you have a coach, you have a business coach that speaks this language that can literally look into your soul and have, like, I literally, when I'm working with my clients, I have their charts. I work online, so I have their charts in the corner. I'm staring at it the whole time. And we may not even talk about their chart, but I'm looking at it. I'm looking at patterns. I'm listening to what they're saying. And I'm reflecting back their chart to them as the North Node, as the thing, as the compass that's bringing them back to themselves. Because they know, when I talk to you about your chart, it's right. Your soul is like, there's like a relaxing, or sometimes it's frustrating because you're like, I know that and I'm not doing it or whatever. But there's a recognition that you have when someone speaks your chart to you. And yes, you can study this on your own. Like, yes, but like it's a lot. And it's not as easy as going on ChatGPT and putting in your chart information and downloading. Like, I'm so sorry, that is not how it works. There is a lot to it. This is a language. There's, you have to, and I remember the first time I ever taught someone astrology, she's still just absolutely one of my favorite humans. She's actually going to be on this podcast. She's going to do a forecast episode with me. The first time I ever taught somebody astrology, I worked with her one-on-one, and she's really intelligent and I was just ready to go. And she already knew a lot about astrology. And as we started working together, what I realized was, oh shit, this is activating. So as she's learning these things, and some of it, she already kind of knew, but as she's looking at some of this in a new light, it was activating things inside of her. And so we had to slow way, way, way down. And, I think probably not really to my I wasn't frustrated about it, but I think it was more of like a check for me of realizing of like, hey, this isn't just information. This is activation. You've been studying this. At that point, I'd been studying it, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years, somewhere in there. And I had been slowly integrating it and letting it activate me and letting it trigger me and moving through it. And what I realized is, I'm going to have to let her do the same thing. This isn't something that I'm just going to be able to regurgitate. She's going to walk away with, okay, cool. Like, this is an activating practice. And so if you're, whether you're learning astrology on your own or you're working with a coach or you're working, you're taking courses, this is a slow process. And when you're doing it for yourself and you're applying it to your business, having somebody that speaks that language that can help activate you in a way that is really pertinent to where you want to be going is so powerful. because I can look at your chart and I hear your goals and I hear where you want to go, and I can see the bigger story that your chart is trying to tell. And I can see where you might be running into pitfalls, or where you're running into walls, or why you might be feeling like you're chasing your tail, because your chart is trying to get you back connected to your authenticity. Okay, so let's keep going. Let's go to Saturn now. Saturn in business, like I say every single one of these, I'm like, this is such an important planet, but it really is. Like, Saturn is such a fucking important planet in your birth chart, because Saturn is how you organize your business. It's how you structure your business. It's how you hire. It's how you delegate. It really is like daddy. I call Saturn daddy because he is. He is daddy of your business. He's the CEO of your business. He's the overseer of your business. And if you're structuring your business in alignment with your Saturn, it's going to be so much more beneficial. So if you have your Saturn in Sagittarius, for instance, structure is probably not your thing. Even if you're a Capricorn sun, even if you have like 5 planets in Capricorn, your Saturn is in Sagittarius. So structure might be a little bit more difficult for you. You may need structure to be a little bit more fluid, flowing, shifting, changing. You need space to be inspired with new ideas. Like, you're building, but you're building in a very different way than somebody, for instance, with their Saturn in Capricorn. So somebody with their Saturn in Capricorn, like myself, and around my age, I'm 35, you probably have your Saturn in Capricorn, and that is going to show how you structure your business. So the way that I think about structuring my business is very like traditional when it comes to hiring, when it comes to the types of people that I want to work with. Like, I'm pretty like cut and dry. Like, I think people are always kind of shocked when I've had assistants or had people that work for me in the past. Like, I've had to tell them, and before I understood astrology, like, I definitely offended some people, because I'm not somebody that's like, oh my God, hi, how are you doing? How's your week been? I'm like, hey, here's a to-do list, let's go. And it's not that I don't care. It's just that I'm very focused on the task at hand. I'm very focused on the structure of what we need to be doing. And it's not that I don't care. It's not that I don't want to connect with you, but it's just that when I'm in working mode, when I'm thinking about my business, like, that's how I'm even talking to myself. I'm very like, my head's down and I'm getting shit done. It's not that I don't like to chat with people, but not if it's coming in, conflict with the task at hand. And so Saturn is really going to tell you how you want to have your business set up. If you have for instance, your Saturn in Aries, you're not going to do well with like a lot of hierarchy, or, a lot of people above you, or, not above you, but like having a lot of that hierarchy. You're going to want to have a lot of independence, and you're not going to want your business to chain and tie you down. And I see this a lot where people try to set their business up like they think they're supposed to have it set up as far as structure goes and schedule goes. And if it's in conflict with your Saturn, it's going to feel really difficult. So, this is another place where for me, I have my Saturn in Capricorn and my Mars is in Sagittarius. And so the structure sometimes tries to come in and like choke out my vital energy. And I have to kind of remind my Saturn and be like, hey, I know we want to be building something, but if we're building something just to build something, then the inspiration's not going to be there. The passion's not going to be there. So we actually have to create the container around the flow, around what's coming in. And my Saturn's also, it's conjunct my Neptune and my Uranus. So we'll get to those planets here in a minute. And so there's a lot of conversations going on there with my Saturn. So it's not just the sign. So though my Saturn probably on its own is like, I would love to have a lot of structure. I would love to, have everything really scheduled out. I have to listen to those other planets that are sitting there with him, because my Uranus needs to be able to shift and change. So like, I know from looking at my chart, but also from experience, the types of people I work really well with are people that can pivot. People that can kind of follow me around, take in all my like craziness and organize it. Like, that's what I need. So when I'm looking at somebody, when I'm hiring, that is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for somebody that actually is really structured, that is really good at taking chaos and turning it into structure and then feeding it back to me and saying, hey, here's what I need you to do. You need to do this, 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 and this. And I'm like, cool. I'm really good with marching orders. And so actually, in a way, I kind of like somebody to do that with me. It's not that I want to be controlled. It's not that I want a boss. Like, I do not do well with bosses. But I like having somebody that's taking what I'm saying, organizing it, and being able to spit back to me, hey, here's what you need to do so that we can accomplish what you're wanting to do. And I'm also needing somebody that like sees my bigger vision, because that's really important to me too. And I know all that because I'm looking at my Saturn, I'm looking at my 6th house, which also tells you a lot about who you need to hire. And so I can find those people really easily. And yeah, some of it's trial and error, and some of it, like, I literally had somebody that I worked with years ago, and I'm like, I just need to find her again. We directed shows together. She was my assistant director, and she was so fabulous. She was my dance captain. But she was a Virgo, and she just got my brain. Like, she was able to do that. She was really structured. She was really organized, and she was able to take in all my crazy and organize it back to me, and also give me limits, and also say, no, we can't do that. No, we can't. And not in a way that was stifling, but in a way that was like just helping me come down to earth. And so that's really important. I think a lot of times when people are hiring, and this is one thing I like telling people, I'm like, please, please, please use astrology when you're hiring. Use astrology when you're scaling, because you're going to save so much time, so much money. It is expensive to hire people. It's expensive to train them and then them not work out. Not to mention the time, the energy for you and for them. And you don't have to waste that time. You can look at your astrology chart and see exactly the type of person that you need to be hiring and what you need to be looking for in order to scale your business to that next level. So that's Saturn. Next, let's go on to Uranus. Uranus is a really interesting... So Uranus is a really interesting planet in astrology. When it comes to your business, and it can be a really positive thing in your business. It can also be a really challenging thing in your business. So a lot of entrepreneurs are naturally very Uranian. So what I mean by that is you might have Uranus on your sun. You might have it on your ascendant. You might have it in a really strong place in your chart. And the reason I say a lot of entrepreneurs are like that, because Uranus is genius energy. It's insight, it's disruption, it's change, it's quick, it's fast, it's lightning, it's technology, it's electricity, it's progress. And a lot of entrepreneurs have that energy. Guess who has that energy? Me. I have Uranus on my sun, which is also my chart ruler. So I have Uranus on arguably the most important planet in my entire chart. Now, it's in Capricorn. And a lot of us born around the same time I was born, so if you're in your 30s, it's really likely you have Uranus in Capricorn too. And that's an interesting place to have Uranus, because Capricorn likes structure. It likes boundaries. It likes schedules. It likes consistency. But with Uranus there, Uranus wants to disrupt all those things, which is why you've seen a big shift in millennials of not wanting to work in an office. It's because we have Uranus in Capricorn. It's because we are disrupting the status quo. Capricorn is totally patriarchy. I will own that shit. It's patriarchy, it's capitalism, it's business as we know it. Uranus is business of the future. It's shifting, it's changing, it's disruption, it's progress, it's riots, it's looking at how we can change and shift things for the better, which is why it got signed in modern day astrology to Aquarius, because Aquarius very much stands for those values. So where Uranus is in your chart when it comes to business is going to show how you disrupt your industry. And this is huge, because the way you make yourself fucking iconic. I talk about iconic all the time because it's the thing we all want to be. It's the thing that gives you staying power. When you are iconic, when you are set apart in your industry, you have staying power. You are going to give yourself that long-term staying power. So if you're a disruptor in your industry, that is what we're talking about with Uranian industry or Uranian energy. And we all have Uranus somewhere in our chart. And that is going to tell you where you are here to disrupt society and your industry. And this is going to tell you what sets you apart and how to lean into this. So for me, Uranus and Capricorn, a lot of you are going to have that listening. So go check. It's really likely you have that placement. Uranus in Capricorn, you are here to shake up the status quo, how business is done. So I'm really big on fucking the patriarchy. I'm really big on creating a matriarchal way of doing business, of shifting, of changing, of disrupting the way things are, of how we do business, of how we make money. And it's in the 6th house, which for me is all about daily work. And so I'm here to disrupt the way that you are showing up. I'm literally here to disrupt business as usual. And if you listen to the top of the show, the intro of the show, that's what this podcast is about. The Mystic CEO is here for soul-led rebels in business who are done doing business as usual. I am speaking to my Uranian placement, which is why people resonate with this content, which is why I know this is such a big part of my business, because I'm here to disrupt the way you do business, how you do your daily life. And where you have Uranus in your chart, so even if you have it in Capricorn, you may not have it in the 6th house. You may have it in your 10th house. You may have it in your 9th house. Maybe you have it in your, 3rd house, and you're here to disrupt the way that people are doing social media or podcasting or doing marketing. Maybe it's in your 12th house and you're disrupting the way the birth industry goes. And you're shifting and changing that. And also 6th house doesn't have to be your daily work. Also 6th house could be like you're disrupting the medical industry or the healing industry. In your 8th house, you could be disrupting the psychological industry, mental health. That's also can be true for 12th house. 9th house, you can be disrupting religion, travel, the way we see the world, bigger picture, the way we see God. So really looking at where that is in your chart, and it might not be necessarily your job. Like it might not be that that's your title, but it can show you where you're here to shift culture and where your zone of genius lies in and where you're here to take a risk. Because let's say, for instance, you have your Uranus in your 11th house, you're here to disrupt the way we do community. And you have vision and you have a way of connecting that you think that we should be doing community that's so disruptive to the status quo. And a lot of us are scared of our Uranus energy. Even if it's on your sun, a lot of us are fucking scared of that because we're told to stay within a box. But your Uranus energy is what is going to set you apart and make you that icon that is going to stay around. Next, let's talk about Neptune. Neptune is your vision. It is your connection to your higher power, to your higher self, to your spirituality. It is the thing that gives you the bigger picture vision. And a lot of people come to me when, you're hitting those 10K, 20K months, you're making good money, you're building your business, but you feel disenchanted. And a lot of times it's because they're disconnected from their Neptune. They're disconnected from the bigger vision, the bigger picture of who they're here to serve, why they're here to do it. It may be that they still, it's still the same thing. Like when they leave, it may not be that they're going to change and all of a sudden, start going from being a photographer to all of a sudden being a life coach. Like it might not be that, but it could be that your why changes. Your bigger picture changes, your vision changes. And your Neptune is so important in your business because if you're disconnected from your vision, you're going to lose momentum. When you're disconnected from your vision, you're going to be disconnected from your values, which is also why I've never actually put those two together, but Venus is exalted in Pisces. And Venus, we talked about earlier, is your values. And Pisces is modern day ruler is Neptune. So your values are exalted when you are connected to your vision. I'm going to say that again. Your values are exalted when you are connected to your bigger vision. So this is why tools like the Akashic Records or my core self meditation, getting connected to your core self, your higher self, your spiritual guides, your whatever you conceptualize as God, the universe. It's so important to stay connected to that because that is your channel and your why of why you're doing this. It's not just to make money. Nobody goes into entrepreneurism just to make money. Very few people. And if you do, if that's your only reason for going in, then you're probably not listening to this podcast because you probably don't connect with the soul-led part. If you're listening to this, I know that you have a bigger vision, but it's really easy to get disconnected from it because there's all this shit being thrown at us. The marketing, the podcasting, the this, the that. You need to have 50 types of social media and you need to have your email list and you need to have a funnel and you need to have a course and you need to have a package and you need to, whatever, and your photo shoots and your websites and your brand. And none of that's bad. None of that is bad. And I'm not demonizing any of that. But if that is what you're using in place of your vision, you're going to feel disconnected. That's kind of like using gifts and date nights and grand gestures rather than really truly being connected to your partner. Like, it's fun, but it's not going to connect you to the core of why you're together. The core of why you're together is that love. It's that connection. It's who you see each other are and the vision of what you're wanting to build together. And it's same is true for your business. So look at where Neptune is in your chart. A lot of you are going to have Neptune in Capricorn, like me, because you're probably born, if you're born within, the radius of, especially in the 90s, like you're probably have your Neptune in Capricorn, or you're going to have it in Sagittarius is most likely. You could have it in Scorpio if you're a little bit older. And if you're younger, if you're like in your 20s, you might have it in Aquarius. I'm not sure the dates on it, but look it up, find out where your Neptune is. But a lot of you are going to have Neptune in Capricorn. And Neptune in Capricorn, it's a tricky placement because, we talked about Capricorn, it's structure, it's legacy, it's, building something. And Neptune is fog. It's confusion sometimes. It's screens. Movies are ruled by Neptune. And what we're here to do with our Neptune and Capricorn is we're really here to have a different vision of what the world could be, of what capitalism could be, of what society could be as a whole, of what hierarchy could be, of what patriarchy could be, what it could turn into, what it could transform into. And so that's why so many of us that have that Uranus on top of Neptune, we're here to disrupt society and we have a vision of what it could be, right? And then if you're also like me and you have your Saturn in Capricorn, so if you're born in the, around 1989, 1990, somewhere in there, you may have all three of these placements. And so you have actually probably a lot of regard, or you were really stuck in these systems because that's what Saturn and Capricorn is. Like, you may have been in a really controlling patriarchal system, whether that was religion, whether that was school, whether that was corporate America, whether it was all three. You may have found yourself born into these systems and maybe tried really hard to work up the ladder to gain success, to gain these different positions of power. And then you also have these Neptune placements. You also have that Uranus placement. So it's all that tied together. You've seen it, you tried it, you climbed up the ladder, and now you're here to disrupt it. And now you're here for the vision, the bigger vision of what you're here to do. And it's a really powerful combination to have. And it's a hard combination to have. But there's something really special about those of us that have that placement, because right now we are disrupting society. And wherever you have Neptune in your chart, wherever you have that, that's your vision. That's the bigger picture you see. And it's so, so important. If you have your Neptune in Sagittarius, maybe you have a global view of how we should be doing things, of how we should be all connected. Sagittarius is global, or maybe around religion or spirituality. If you have your Neptune in Aquarius, you might have a different vision of how we could be caring about society and people as a whole. Aquarius is a very humanitarian sign. And so Neptune there, like it really can see that utopian. It can see what we could be if we all came together, if we stopped focusing so much on our differences, if we looked for where we align, if we stopped letting these fucking politicians divide us, if we stopped listening to all that shit. You know, you with Neptune in Aquarius, you might really have that vision of what it could be. And we need you. We really need you. So look at where Neptune is in your chart. Look at the house it's in your chart. And that's going to be where you're bringing that energy. So it might look wildly different. Like if you have Neptune in your second house, you might be bringing this vision to like to your finances and the way that you earn money. If you have it, you know, in your third house, maybe it's social media, maybe it's your neighborhood, maybe it's your daily life, maybe it's emailing, maybe it's podcasting, maybe it's the way we're communicating. You have this greater vision of what it could be. So Neptune's such an important part of your business. It might not be the thing that you're constantly connecting to day to day, but if you find yourself so disconnected from your vision, your bigger picture, look back to your Neptune. And finally, the last planet we're going to be talking about today is Pluto. Now, there's other really important places in your chart, and I'm going to talk about those. We're going to have episodes where we talk about the midheaven, which is so important, your north node, which is so important, Chiron, really important things when it comes to your business. But today I wanted to focus on the planets, and we spoke a little bit about your rising sign. And so last today we're going to talk about is Pluto. Pluto is a powerful fucking planet. And it's a generational planet. So you'll find that people born like within the same 12, sometimes 19 years of each other will all have the same Pluto placement. Now it shifts and it changes. Like my wife, I think has a different Pluto place than me. I actually don't know that. I need to check that. I definitely have clients that are, you know, even just 5 or 6 years older than me that have different Pluto placements. So it does shift. And when it shifts, you know, will change. We just had Pluto transition into Aquarius from Capricorn. So everybody born between 2008 until like recently, they're all going to have their Pluto in Capricorn. There's a Pluto and Sag generation, a lot more of like the Gen Zs. You have your Pluto and Sag. And then we have, you know, my generation, we have our Pluto in Scorpio. And Pluto in Scorpio, so Pluto in general in your birth chart, it's your place of transformation, death and rebirth. It also can be a really painful place in your chart. So, you know, when we're looking at Pluto, I want to approach it with a lot of sensitivity because it can be a place where you've had a lot of wounds, where you've had not just wounds, but like deep trauma. And it can be a really difficult place to look at in the chart. For me, it's in my fourth house. And if you have Pluto in your fourth house or you have Saturn in your fourth house, but Pluto is what we're talking about right now, you may have experienced some really hard childhood trauma. You may have had something really difficult happen to you early in childhood in your developmental stage. So for me, my dad died 8 days before I turned 3. My mom remarried. We moved to Nashville. That was an abusive situation. I had a lot of trauma in my early childhood. And it wasn't really until my 30s that I was able to really start healing that because I kept repeating those cycles in relationships, in organizations, in mentors. I kept finding places that would replay this trauma out in front of me because I was trying to heal it. And in your business, what Pluto represents is your ability to reinvent, your ability to transform, to rebrand. And so where Pluto sits in your chart, the house it sits, and also the sign it sits in is going to tell you a lot about that transformation. So when we transform, and we have to have these eras, right? And I think a really good person to look at who does this really well is Taylor Swift. And she is a Scorpio rising and she has Pluto in her first house. So this transformation that I'm talking about, you literally see that she does over and over. These are her different eras. She's literally made a career out of her Pluto sign, out of her first house, out of transforming into these different personas. And she talks about that's part of, it was a conscious decision she made because The music industry wants you to be something else, show a new facet, be shiny, transform, especially for women. This is a pressure that's put on them. And she was like, she noted that. She was aware of that. And the thing that's really difficult about Pluto is what we see that she had to do is that she had to die. She had to take herself down to those deep, dark points, after the Kanye shit, after she had all this success. Everybody kind of just wanted her to go away. She was trying so hard, and I'm going to do a Taylor Swift episode, and I'm really excited about it, but she was trying so hard to be perfect. And Taylor Swift and I are born 8 days apart from each other. We're really close in age, and so our charts are actually really similar. Now, she's a Sagittarius. She has a different moon sign. She has a different rising sign, but everything else in our chart is the same. And so it's just been something it's been a really interesting mirror for me of like different parts of myself that I need to embody. And one of those is the death and transformation. And also I so identify with her trying so hard to be perfect and trying so hard to be this shiny, happy thing. And then she just disappeared for a long time. And then she came back. It was Reputation. It was the phoenix rising from the ashes. And that is Pluto. That is Pluto in action. It's going down to the depths. And this is something in business that when we're transforming, when we're shifting, when we're rebranding, a lot of times we don't want to do because it's hard and it's messy and it's, not what bro marketer Kevin told you to do, to scale or to shift or to change. It's so much deeper than that. And if you are doing it in a way that's really connected to your Pluto, your rebrands, your shifts, your changes, they're not going to feel scattered. They're not going to feel like, oh, I was over here and now I'm over here and I'm changing again. They're going to feel intentional. Now, depending on your Pluto placement, depending on, where it is in your chart, you might struggle. You might be somebody that is constantly shifting and rebranding and changing, and you struggle to find consistency. You might be somebody that struggles with that really struggles with that shifting and changing. But if you look at where it is in your chart, it can really give you kind of a home base and knowing like, okay, this is the area that I'm being called to constantly transform, to constantly rebuild, to constantly evolve. So for instance, for me, I have Pluto in my 4th house. So I am being asked to constantly transform, heal, looking back at my early childhood, looking back at the programming, the way I was taught, the way my family conditioned me, and actually heal and transform from deprogramming from that, from connecting to my own authenticity. So a lot of my transformation in my business has been not a rebellion of like a fuck you, but in a liberation of who I actually am, of looking at all this conditioning, all this programming and saying, that's not me. This is who I actually am. This is who I actually want to be. This is the voice that I really want to carry and use. These are the issues that I really care about, and transforming from that. And my business has shifted. It's evolved so much in the past almost 10 years since I started my business back in 2016. And it's been from that healing journey, going down to the depths, finding a new facet of who I am, healing, letting go of the shit that's not me, and coming out the other side. I'm getting better at it, and I'm doing it with more intention now. Used to, it was almost like a reaction. And that's actually something I think I've talked about on this podcast, but that's been something that my wife has mirrored to me this year. And I've had some other people mirror that, like, hey, when you get uncomfortable, you pivot. You try to change your business, you try to shift, you try to do something different. You don't like the consistency. So I actually almost find myself being a little compulsive with my Pluto of like, oh, I'll reinvent. I'll burn it all down. I'll go back down. And that's because my Pluto squares my North Node, which is, we'll get into that in a different episode, but it's my purpose. So it's my lifeline. But I've had to figure out a way, and I'm figuring that out now. And I'm learning, like, how do I continue that death and rebirth without actually having to burn everything down, but rather going back and getting that vision, that Neptunian energy over and over and over again, getting that vision and coming out new, but not necessarily having to tear everything down. And sometimes there are points where like, okay, I'm shifting. And like sometimes just life and the world, like I shift maybe more than I would, need to or would like. And I'm learning like, what's the difference between this is really my intuition telling me like, here's a shift. And I'm also learning about how to do micro shifts. Like, how do I shift where it feels like, okay, I'm getting a little bit more into alignment, but I'm not burning everything down. I'm deepening. I'm going deeper in what I'm doing, but I'm not starting over. Because what I've realized, if I look at my business, and most of us can look at this, even if you've pivoted a lot, even if you feel like you've changed a lot, there's a through line that goes through your business, that goes through all these shifts that you can probably see. Those values stay the same. The vision stays the same. And if you can see that, then Pluto, that energy doesn't have to be the death and rebirth and the starting over and over again. It can be legacy building. It can be literally building different eras of yourself, different incarnations of yourself, but it doesn't have to be starting over. So that is our journey through the birth chart through the lens of your business. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you liked this episode, please rate, review, subscribe. It really does help so freaking much. Share this episode to your social media. Tag me at Victoria Greer Hathaway. I'd love to connect with you. Let me know, how this episode resonates, what jumped out at you, what some of the ahas you had. I love to hear from y'all and connect with you in that way. So I can't wait. I know this episode's going to be like so freaking like eye-opening for you and hopefully help you be able to start looking at your business and your chart in a whole new way. If this is really lighting you up and you're like, oh my fucking gosh, like I'm so ready to jump in, I have a few ways that you can do that. So number one, you can book a business astrology session. These are 90-minute sessions. We go deep. We go through all these places in your chart. And we guide it based on, what you're wanting to do. If you're wanting to scale, if you're wanting to hire, but I also give you this bigger overview of, hey, this is the bigger picture of your chart. This is the story that your chart's trying to tell through your business. You can book that now via the show notes. And I actually have another really exciting opportunity that I want to talk about, and that is one-on-one coaching. So as I talked about earlier, like, yes, you can come have a reading and absolutely do that if you want to try it out. But if you know already, like, I'm in, like, this is the work that I want to do. This is how I want to evolve my business. I want to do it in a way that's connected to my soul. I'm tired of, shifting through strategies, scaling strategy, whatever. I want to do this in a way that's in alignment with my soul. One-on-one coaching is available. It's a 3-month program, 12 weeks. You have Voxer access, and it's a really powerful portal. We will go through your chart slowly. We will look at your business, your goals for your business, and adapt it to your chart. And as I said earlier, this is not one of those things. It's not head knowledge. It's integration. So a lot of the other work that we also do, we work with the nervous system. We work with your different parts to help integrate them and get them on board. We are also working sometimes with the Akashic records, connecting into that realm of your business. So it's a really powerful place. It's a really powerful offering that will take your business to a place that you can't even imagine it being. Like it's the thing if you want to really scale your business and take it to the next level. It's really great if you're hiring, if you're looking to expand your business, if you're pivoting, if you're scaling in any way. It's a really, really great program to do. So I'm going to go ahead and link so that you can book a discovery call. You can do a free consultation for that if you're interested in one-on-one coaching. Okay, thank you so much for tuning into today's episode, and I will see you next time. Bye.